The salt-crusted wood of the galley groans as the sea pulls the Greeks into the dark. Blood slickens the Thracian sand, and the screams of the dying are swallowed by the roar of the surf. Here, on the shores of Ismarus, the shadow of Troy still clings to their skin like ash. Odysseus stands at the prow, his sword heavy with the weight of a victory turned to rot. The air is thick with the smell of scorched earth and the honey-sweet, terrifying perfume of a land that promises rest. Is this the end of the hero, or the birth of a ghost? Can the cleverest man in the world survive the death of his own discipline, or will the weight of 10 years of slaughter finally pull him beneath the waves? 10 years of iron and fire have passed since they first saw the walls of Ilium. The war is over, the city a cinder, and the Greeks are no longer the disciplined phalanx that crossed the wine-dark sea. They are raiders now, hearts calloused by the long siege. They sail with the wind of victory at their backs, but a storm of their own making gathers in the west. The Aegean is a graveyard of many things, and the first to sink is the order of the camp. The smoke of Troy still rises in their dreams, a ghost light that blinds them to the shifting tides. They are kings and captains, yet they move like thieves in the night, seeking to fill the void left by a decade of carnage. The memory of the hearth is a flickering candle in a hurricane of greed. Odysseus looks upon his fleet, 12 ships, 1,200 men, and sees the fraying edges of their resolve. They are weary of the oar, tired of the shield, yet they cannot put down the spear. The plan is simple, born of the soldier's logic. Strike Ismarus, the city of the Cicones. Take the grain, take the wine, take the cattle, and vanish before the sun sets. It is a raider's gamble, a quick harvest of steel to sustain the long voyage home. Odysseus feels the pull of the hearth, but his men feel only hunger. The pride of the conqueror is a dangerous garment. It fits well in the moment of triumph, but offers no warmth against the coming cold. He calculates the risk, weighing the lives of his crew against the necessity of supplies, but he fails to account for the rot of entitlement that has set into their bones. Preparation is a ritual of the bone. They sharpen their bronze, not for a duel of honor, but for the butchery of a raid. They don their greaves with the practiced ease of men who have forgotten peace. Among the allies stands Eurylochus, his face a map of scars, his voice the gravel of 1,000 battlefields. He checks the lashings of the wineskins, his eyes fixed on the walls of Ismarus. A small city, he says, spitting into the dust. A small city for men who broke Troy. Odysseus touches the hilt of his sword, a gift from a world that no longer exists. He hears the wind whispering through the rigging, a low, mournful sound, like the crying of a widow. The black hulls are now predators in foreign waters. They commit. The first contact is not a clash of kings, but a slaughter of the unsuspecting. The Greeks swarm the city like a tide of bronze, the raiders' mindset taking hold. There is no strategy here, only the chaotic release of 10 years of suppressed fury. They take what they want. They drink the dark wine of Maron. They feast on the shore, the fires of their camp competing with the stars. But the Cicones are not broken. They are merely retreating to the hills, gathering their kin. Odysseus commands the retreat, sensing the danger in the overripe silence. To the ships, he cries, the tide is turning. But the men do not listen. They are drunk on wine and the memory of their own greatness. They believe the world owes them this respite, that their status as victors of Troy renders them immune to the consequences of a sloppy defense. Then, the storm of the Cicones breaks upon them at dawn. They come from the mountains, a sea of spears and chariots, moving with the precision that the Greeks have discarded. The struggle is frantic, a desperate scramble for the oars. Action, consequence, action. The sand turns red, then black. Bone snaps under the weight of Ciconian wheels. The original plan is a charred ruin. Odysseus, once the architect of the wooden horse, is now just a man trying to save his skin. He fights with a grim resolve, his blade a blur of silver in the morning light. But he is fighting a ghost, the ghost of the discipline his men have lost. The transition from hero to survivor is complete in the moment he hears the last cry of those left on the beach. They push off, leaving empty benches behind. For 9 days, the north wind, sent by a vengeful Zeus, batters the fleet. The sea is a titan, tossing the black ships like leaves in a gale. They are stripped of their pride, stripped of their direction. When the wind finally dies, they find themselves in a land of perpetual summer, the island of the Lotus-Eaters. Here, the struggle shifts from the physical to the existential. This is not the roar of the chariot. It is the silence of the sun-drenched shore. The air is heavy with the scent of flowers that bloom in the shade of oblivion. The 3 scouts sent inland do not return. When Odysseus finds them, they are sitting among the locals, their faces slack, their eyes reflecting nothing but the golden light. They have eaten the honey-sweet fruit of the lotus. The revelation hits Odysseus like a physical blow. The greatest threat to his journey is not the spear, but the sweetness. To eat the lotus is to forget the father, the wife, the son. It is to forget the struggle of Troy and the hope of Ithaca. It is a silent horror, the death of the self. The struggle is no longer against an antagonist he can stab. It is against the desire to simply stop. Odysseus does not hesitate. He grabs the men by their tunics and drags them, wailing and weeping, back to the ships. They are not heroes. They are children being dragged from a dream. He lashes them to the benches under the rowing seats, their cries muffled by the salt air. Odysseus stands at the helm. The memory of those blank stares burned into his mind. He cannot return to the man who stood before the walls of Troy. The aftermath is a heavy silence that hangs over the fleet. The oars rise and fall, but there is no song of triumph. The men look at the empty benches and then at the lashed scouts, whose eyes are slowly beginning to clear, replaced by the crushing weight of their own shame. The dawn is a cold, grey line on the horizon, offering no comfort. They are survivors, but they are haunted. They have learned that the sea does not care for their medals. The ocean is an auditor, and it has begun to collect its debts. Odysseus feels the price in the ache of his shoulders and the hollowness of his chest. He has seen how easily they would have traded their heritage for a moment of peace. He realizes the war has moved to the interior of the human heart. History remembers Odysseus for his cunning, but here he learned that the hardest enemy to defeat is the one that offers you an exit. The horizon is clear for now, but a giant shadow falls across the path. A single eye watches the black ships approach. The test of the body is over. Walk with us through the old stories. Subscribe to Saga Weaver, where ancient warriors face impossible choices.